Hi everyone and welcome to the Publishing Performance Show. Today I'm delighted to be joined by H.H. Rune, who is an author of fiction-ish. So welcome to the show, H.H.
Thanks for having me, Teddy.
So fiction-ish, what does that mean?
What it means is I've written a book where some of it may be true and some of it is not true. So it's up to the reader to try and determine what they think is fact and what is fiction.
So it's like a thinly based autobiography.
Yeah, I think my book would be categorized autofiction because, it kind of pulls both.
Yeah.
So
Nice. So tell us about the book and tell us why you wrote it.
Yeah, so I've been writing this book series for 25 years, so a long time, big chunk of my life, majority. And this idea came to me. At age 30, I decided that I wanted to lead an extraordinary life. And I was a stay-at-home mom and wife at the time, living on the cul-de-sac, and, not a lot of ability to make huge changes. And I started picking up my writing and I started doing more things to make my life bigger. So I joined an indoor women's soccer team, became goalie, which was terrifying, but super fun at the same time. And we were lucky we had this ref who taught us how to play the game because we were just, a bunch of bumblers out there on the field. It was fun. But this idea came to me to write up 5 books of my personal memories about other people that I'd known in my life and write them up and publish them into 5 little books using the person's initial at the top of each excerpt. And then I would send those books out to seemingly random people in the United States asking, with a note inside, asking that the books be passed along until one lands in the hands of someone that I wrote about, and that person would recognize me and bring it back to me. So that was the concept originally. And then I really started looking at that and I started thinking, well, I could turn this into a novel where we get to read the memories of the author. I added that we get to read her journal entries over time as she waits for one of the books to come back to her. And then I also got to write about the book travels and all the characters and people that they come in contact with. So that's kind of my book in a nutshell.
Yeah. So the book is, you say it's sort of thinly based off things that have happened to your life, but it is also, there's a narrative to it. You've created a story and it is a fiction in itself. So
yes.
Why did you write it like that, like as a fiction rather than just telling about the stories that you've been through in your life?
I think I really liked the idea that if somebody were to come upon a book, they would appreciate the vulnerability of somebody who wrote something like that and asked for help. And that, we as humanity would look at that and go, I have an opportunity to help somebody I don't know and kind of pay it forward in that way. A lot of these characters, they find this book and they realize, the odds, it's like 1 in 15 million, or I ran the odds at one point, but I'd have to run them again, of having something like this come into their life, and they start to feel maybe a little special, or maybe they read some of the stories inside and start to think about people that they've known in their life and, have maybe let go of, or, just want to remember. So I think it kind of hits a lot of strands of what people think about. And it's also about the growth of the author over time as she's finding herself, really.
All right, interesting. So tell me about some of the characters in the book, because the main character is based on you. So who are some of the characters that you come across in the book?
Boy, there's a woman named Sarah who lives in Taos, New Mexico. She's an artist who had kind of a maiming accident, and so she had to pivot her artistry and switch gears. She's in a loveless marriage. She feels stuck and alone, and this book comes into her life and she's like, well, I gotta stop this, this is not working for me. She's drinking her, singular packaged bottles of wine every night and, tossing them in the recycle and dodging scorpions. So that's Sarah. There's another fellow whose name is Wayne, and he is a psychiatrist and kind of a lone wolf type of character. Doesn't let a lot of people get close to him, and kind of, so we get to hear more about his upbringing as a military brat. And yeah, I mean, the characters are so fun. It's been just the best time to not only research all these different places, because the books are traveling, so there's history everywhere you go. There's hidden history. And so I try and pull out whatever history I can from the city that the book happens to be located in. And then you have these diverse characters with, from different walks of life and different experiences. So it's been a blast.
Yeah, the reason I ask is just because obviously your book is slightly different to other fiction books. And I know we're going to touch on this at the end with your book recommendation, but there's a lot of tropes with a lot of books, with a lot of different types of characters that you kind of want to get into your books in order to fulfill that niche and get what the customers are looking for, what the readers are looking for, sorry. So when you're basing your characters, some of them are based off real life. Did you then have to try and think about other characters that you wanted to create to fill those gaps? Or was it that the characters you already knew were filling those gaps for you?
The characters really have just come to me, and then, with any little bit of research, or just, sometimes I feel that there's just this download from another place that kind of sets me on a path to write a character. So I see the tropes, but I have so many characters in my books. There's like 20 that you follow throughout the book. So it's kind of hard to do that. It's more a story about oneness and togetherness, and how we're much more alike than we are different. So yeah, I've been really lucky that these characters have just come and introduced themselves to me, and we get along. So
yeah, interesting. Now, when you came to write this book, what was your process for getting your book written? Because you mentioned that you've been writing it sort of on and off over the last 20 years. Did you have any process for getting that information down and organized? Or was there a light bulb moment towards the end of the 20 years where you're like, well, actually, let's just get this done now? And how did that work?
So originally, I have a spreadsheet. I have my master spreadsheets, and then I have the edited versions throughout that time period. So sometimes I would change it. Sometimes I would add a character to fill a hole or get to a word count. So staying on top of that. But probably the big epiphany for me came in 2023 when I had a consultation with a book coach, Ellie Alexander. She's a cozy mystery author here in the States. And because I had written about 5 little books, it made the most sense to turn it into a series of 5 books where I could travel with each of the books and simplify my formatting. Because originally I was writing all 5 books in addition to all of the author stuff, in addition to all the memory stuff. And it just would have been this 1,000-page tome, and it was confusing. It was more confusing than it already is. I have added a cheat code to the front of my book that outlines, I'm using different font styles to help the reader navigate. Okay, this is a journal entry by the author. It's in italics. I have the bolded font, which is the memories of the people that she's known. And then the regular typeset is the book travels. So, and then for the book travels, I have the number on the top of each excerpt for whichever book it is. So it's a little confusing in that you're in the book and you see the number 1 you think it's a chapter, but it's actually the book 1 that you're in. So it's really been this evolution of trying to figure out how best to get the story out and not blend everybody's brain.
What was it about? Because if you're writing over 20 years, what was it that caused you to finally go, okay, now let's get this done now? Was there a moment where you think, okay, I've just got to get this done?
Yeah, I think I would set it all aside, as often as I would pick it up. It depended on what was going on in my life. If I was having, a lot of turmoil or whatever, it was harder, but I would keep my journals so I'd have notes about it. The biggest, I think my starter to really pushing for this was in 2020. I was working as an interior designer for a builder and pretty happy with my job. That was something I enjoyed doing. I liked the people that I worked with. But when the pandemic hit, they let me go. And so, suddenly I'm what, 52 years old, and looking at this thing that I've had in my heart for all of my life, basically. And it just really hit me. If not now, when? When am I going to do it? Yeah. So it was the pandemic, and drawbacks and benefits abound, I think, for people. It just depends.
Yeah. You had two options, get a lockdown dog or write a book, and you chose option 2. Most of my friends bought dogs, and so as a result, they haven't got anything to show for their pandemic time.
But a loving companion or a funny companion.
Yeah, maybe. Now, with your books, you've got a bit of an interesting way of marketing it, and one of them was to make a little note at the back so that people can then pass that book on to someone else, and you can see the history of that book, a bit like when you pass down like children's clothes between different generations. You can see the little name tags in the back. That made me think of that, because that's what I've got on my daughter's coat. It's got the space for like 5 different names on there.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
And it reminded me of your book. I was thinking about it the other day. So what made you come up with that idea?
Well, because there's the implorable note at the beginning, please pass this on. I could read it if you want, but it's short. But it's, please pass this book along. So you put that in, and you say, dear reader, please pass this book along for these reasons. And it makes people want to get the book and pass it along. Mm-hmm. Well, of course. So I just put in the back of my books some lines for people to write their name and location and date that they found the book, and then pass it along, because it puts them as part of the story. They are now a part of the story, part of this global social literary experiment that we all, can have fun with. So yeah, I did that, and it's going to be fun. I'm excited to have one show up at an author event where I'm signing, and have one show up with a bunch of names in it. That I'll just be tickled.
Yeah, that would be great. You should get people to try and tag it on Instagram as well if they get the book passed to them. That should maybe pass it on a bit.
I do have a specific Instagram page for the Find Me series, and I haven't had people tag me so much yet. I think because I'm still putting these out. I do have some limited edition trackable versions as well that I've set up with a QR code sticker in the front of it. It has like a code number that people can input into a Google form and document where they found it, if they have a funny story to share about it, or some such thing. And then when we have more data, we're going to populate that on an interactive map on my website. So I only did 20 limited edition trackable versions per volume. So there's 40 of them out there. In fact, one was left at the Victoria Station in London. So you might find it.
I might find it. Yeah.
If you get to town, yeah, you might. So
that's amazing. So with your book, what other sorts of marketing did you do to try and get your book out there?
I've been a lot on TikTok. That's kind of been my mainstay. I'm comfortable with the videos. I found such good community there. A lot of other authors, a lot of readers. I've done BookBub. I've done some giveaways on Goodreads. Yeah.
Those have been the main ones. With the TikTok, I'd interviewed a lady called Shelby Lee, she's amazing at TikTok. She's really good at doing this like content stuff on TikTok and like being part of Book Talk and sharing her books there. So
Oh,
definitely
okay.
go back and check out that episode, because it was one of my favorite episodes, and she goes through her exact process really that she uses for selling her books. And her books are they're quite niche books. She does mental health poetry as her main thing, apart from her marketing side. So they're really interesting because she's taken quite a niche topic and made quite a big success of it, which I think is quite inspiring for a lot of people. But what's been your experience of TikTok? How have you been getting it to work?
Well, let's see. How have I been getting it to work? I just started following a lot of people that I thought had, similar viewpoints, similar goals, connecting with some different marketers that are on there, all kinds of things. There's just so many interesting people to find on there, I've found. And even every day there's more people. The algorithm, everybody's talking about the algorithm. Well, I happen to like the algorithm. I think it's putting me in touch with the people that I need to be in touch with. And the book talkers are just riotous, wonderful people, and so supportive and very supportive of indie authors. They do show a lot of the traditionally published books, the big fantasy names and everything, but they do also celebrate the indie authors and appreciate what we go through to bring our books to market.
Yeah, amazing. That's really interesting. So what are your plans with the future of this book series, both with writing new books and also how to get the word out there a bit more?
So I have 2 books out now currently. Find Me Book 1 and Book 2. They have subtitles. And then the 3rd book is going to come out in the next couple of months. I'm thinking March. The 4th book I'm also hoping to bring out in 2025. And then the 5th book, final book, will hopefully come out in 2026. There's something personally that I need to do in order for me to have the right ending for my book 5. So I'm working towards that.
Oh, of course, because it's a bit more of a living thing, your books, because they're based on you
Yeah.
actually doing things.
Yeah, like right now I'm living in my book 5. So stuff that's going on right now will go in my book 5. It's kind of fun. I send a lot of emails to myself, in the night when my husband's sleeping, just hanging over the bed. Oh, I have to put this in and I have to put this in. And yeah. So as far as marketing goes, I've recently hired a publicist, and she's helped me. She connected me with you, and she connected me with some other podcasters and media outlets. And I think that was kind of a game changer, really, for me, because she's Lauren Hathaway. She's helping me fine tune my message. Because I've really been just writing the story. And it's like, you've probably heard this from a lot of authors, but it's the bane of our existence to try and write the blurb on the back of the book. We can't take this monumental thing that we have, that we've made, and turn it into like a 2,000 word blurb. It's impossible. So like, she's really good at that kind of fine-tuning the bio and the message and getting it in the hands of people that would be interested.
So what was that process like working with a publicist?
Really, really great so far. We connected really easily. I can imagine, her being a friend lifelong. She wanted me to write some articles about different aspects, not necessarily about the book, but about kind of the process and my experience, and send those out as an introduction to if somebody would want to interview me and hit other topics. So, I mean, it's, she gives really good updates. We're looking at this, we're looking at that. This is a possible. So it's been really great, and I recommend it. It's, you have to invest in this thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I am going to start looking more at ads. I've just been head down in editing, and as an indie, you have to do basically everything unless you have a team or people to help you. So, and I'm interested in your product as well. So I'm open to lots of different things, and the things they just keep coming towards me.
Yeah.
So I'm finding them. It's good.
I think other people who are new would like to hear a bit more about that process of finding a publicist, because I think that's something that people maybe don't consider. How did you decide which publicist to work with at first? And how did
So it
you
was
find Lauren?
actually, yeah, it was actually another video on TikTok. I'm following an author, and she started documenting her experience with this publicist. And I reached out to her and asked her who it was, and if, what, if she was getting value, what she thought was value out of it. And she was positive. And so I had the interview with Lauren, and immediately knew that, this is my next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Was it? How does it work working with a publicist? What's that process? Do they help you? You mentioned before that they help you craft that message, but so it's not just a case of them emailing, podcasts like mine to try and get you out there. They're helping you to actually bring your message together as well.
Yeah, like I would write an article. The first article was chucking the rules of writing and finding freedom in indie publishing. And so, I wrote it from my heart, and she kind of fine-tuned it based on what she thought the media outlets would want to read.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's and it helped really open my eyes too to what is typical, for an article online, and like all businesses, they all have a different viewpoint, so they're looking for different things to highlight. So
Yeah.
it's been really good. I recommend it.
Great. Well, it's been really interesting chatting to you about your book journey and what your plans are. I think, especially hearing that you've taken some of those big steps, like hiring publicists. I think for other people who are just starting out, that's quite interesting, because a lot of people are quite reticent to take those steps and to move their book forward. But I think you've got to realize, if you do want your book to start getting some success and start getting in front of people, you do have to invest in some of those extra parts, like publicity or advertising or something like that. So that is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the sticker shock was a little something, but when you start to look at how much you've already spent with, editors and cover designers and all the things, it starts to make sense that you would want an absolute pro who's done this for 15 years or whatever. They have something that, you might need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Looking forward to hearing what happens next to your books. If people want to get in touch with you or to follow you, where's the best place to do that?
Well, I'm on TikTok for the foreseeable future. I do have a website. It's hhrune.com. That's a great place to get like signed books. And my books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I need to get them in Waterstone, so that's something I'm going to have to work on. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to touch base with whoever,
And if anyone finds your book, they need to tag you on Instagram or TikTok so that you can see the back page.
For sure. Yes, please.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Just before you go, we always have one question which we ask everybody, and that is, what's a book you recommend everyone should be reading?
Okay. Yes. So I'm going to recommend, this is for my writer people. This book is called The Anti-Rule: Navigating the Lies About Fiction Writing by Christian Francis. I connected with this gentleman on TikTok, and he's a horror author, so different than my genre, but I really appreciated how he looks at things. This book is about what I was struggling with myself, was because like my book is in first person, second person, third person, omniscient. Like that is something that people don't do in books. You have to pick one. So I was looking for somebody to validate the fact that I was going to break the rules with my book. And he's put this book together, and it's just marvelous. The idea that we can't start a book with a dream, or don't talk about the weather, or things like that, are just these constraints that are over time going to make everybody write the same book. So we really need to open our eyes to what is possible and just write what's in our heart. And I appreciated his book. It's short. It's, you know, it's written in a fun way. So that's the one I recommend.
Nice. And stop people just doing paint by numbers books, which, well, the same as everyone else's. That's really interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to chat to you, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you so much, Teddy.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but are not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but are not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1.